talking to Chris Wolpert, and he author of Hit Zero: The Quest to Make Healthcare a Controllable Expense. So, during inside the comic book that you had created, you actually walked through the path that I assume that you walk through the employers, right? So we walk in, we're a dime a dozen, right? So, and you emphasize that in the beginning, at least that was my impression. You have all these people negotiating these new rates. And that's one thing I always said, there's always a guy that comes in lower, right? And so, and they're like, well, you're 15% increase, and this guy gets a 12% increase. And this guy's like, well, hold on, I got you at 9% increase. But at the same time, you're increasing the out-of-pocket expenses. This is what I call the American way, right? Just premiums go up, out-of-pockets go up, and more costs being passed on to the employees. So just give me some insight on your process with that. You don't have to get into a whole lot of nitty-gritty, and then the kind of like the conversation you take them to and say, okay, there's another way, there's a different way we could do this.
Yep. Yeah. Well, there are two things. One was, especially in the employee benefits world today, I feel like compared to several years ago, maybe, and certainly as you start to go up market, which I know you and I are both doing, and I think everybody wants to do generally. I don't care what industry you're in. You want to go up market. You want to get bigger clients. You want to, those types. It's Jerry Maguire, right? You want to have a bigger impact with your clients, right?
Right.
And so what was important was that I have two heroes in this story. One being the CFO, the other being the HR director. And the discussion really typically is with one of those two people in the beginning, but you always have to build that consensus. And that's kind of, I guess, the point I was getting at is that you really need to build consensus with those two departments. And then many times leadership or the CEO or CFO or the just other people within the C-suite, if you will. Mm-hmm. So that's really what I wanted to do with that. But you're right, that's exactly what I wanted to do with the jackalopes. And I'll tell you a quick story on kind of how I arrived at that was, I had written this comic book. I had done a number of drafts. I was still kind of struggling with who was going to be the mentor character, right? Who was I going to be? And then who was going to be the jackalopes, or who was going to be the traditional broker with a big house that's bringing, fully insured, solutions, and that's it. And continue, can just helping or having the employers continue on this hamster wheel of medical trend, 10% renewal increases each year, and really no solutions that have any effect in a positive way in the end on the employee. And so that was kind of what how I found that was there was a guy I'm connected with on LinkedIn that had mentioned this Wolpertinger and was like, have you ever heard of this and that? And I was like, no. And it was just kind of this. Anyways, we went back and forth a little bit, and he was like, "Why don't just Google it? It's just funny that your last name is so close to it and all this." and this was a guy that was he lives somewhere in the UK now, but he was originally from Germany, and so he told me a little bit about this little creature, this little legend or whatever. So I look it up, and I'm like, oh. This is basically a jackalope, but it's got a few other enhancements to it, right? It's got owl wings, it's got these sharp fangs, it's got, a number of these other characteristics. And then I just had this like epiphany. It was like, oh my gosh, like that would be perfect. That can be because I think there's generally probably not a lot of people in North America that have heard of the Wolpertinger. But yet they have heard of the jackalope, and they are familiar with kind of the legend behind the jackalope, and just again, this mysterious magical creature that's kind of sort of a joke, but so anyways, and that was part of, in a way, that was part of me trying to not take this too seriously, right? And just kind of inject a little bit of humor into this as well. And so so that's how I kind of arrived at using the jackalopes and the Wolpertinger and having them be the shadow figure as well as the mentor figure in the hero's journey.